Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
This is why, of course, she's on The View and not working for the most powerful man in the world, because Karoline would wipe the floor with you bitter banshees any day.
Joe Biden knows how to do this. Yes, he knows how to do this. He's quite good at this. And you know, you can't refute anything with him because he just, when I say him, I mean...
He rambles.
Trump.
Yeah.
He tends to just...
But can I mention one thing?
A few days back, we shared the intense verbal exchange between the new White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, and Whoopi Goldberg. Get ready, because what you're about to see is truly shocking.
I, too, am a working mom and always have been. I've been a professional woman since I graduated from college or law school. But now there's, I think, a good thing, which is like the restoration of valuing so-called traditional, moms, and that's great. The women who take care of their kids full time, most of my best friends are doing exactly that. But it seems like in the right, there's like a bit of a shift toward like, you can't do what Caroline's doing. That's actually like an unsafe or a dangerous or a bad choice for families, for children, which I reject wholesale, but you hear it more and more.
Yeah.
Do you hear that, and what do you think of it?
Right from the start, the usual crowd did what they do best, lost their minds and tried to mom shame her. Apparently, if you dare to outsmart Whoopi Goldberg, the so-called queen of woke, her loyal followers will swarm like Twitter trolls on a trending topic. And with this crowd, nothing, and I mean nothing, is off limits. Not your argument, not your character, and definitely not your family. So what was their big response after Leavitt completely outmatched Goldberg on live TV? Did they challenge her facts? Question her professionalism? Nope. Instead, they took a trip back to the 1950s and asked, why is a mother of a 7-month-old even working? Yes, the same people who constantly say women can do it all suddenly hit the brakes, deciding that this particular working mom had somehow crossed a line. Apparently, if you make a talk show host look bad, you're supposed to go home, bake cookies, and think about your actions. The hypocrisy is off the charts. Self-awareness, nowhere to be found.
I would reject that it's a bad choice. Is it a tough choice? Absolutely. You know, as a mother, you want to be with your child 24/7. You have that maternal instinct.
27.
Yeah. Not all the time. Well, right now, yes, because he's 7 months and just squishy and lovable, but I'm sure that will change. You do have that maternal instinct, but also recognizing, like, I'm doing this work for my son and for all children to make this country better. And it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Yes. It's also it's temporary, right? In 4 years, my son will be 4 years old and the president will no longer be at the White House. And then I'll move on and do something else. But, this chaos of 24/7 work is a temporary matter. And that's what at least I tell myself to get through these very long and hard days. But I would reject that you can't be a good mom and be good at your job. I think you can do both. It's not for everybody. And it takes a lot of work and will and faith and prayer. And it's hard, but it can be done. And, I would reject that.
Just like that, Caroline Leavitt shuts down the outrage with ease, like swatting a fly with a sledgehammer. She calmly lays out what should be obvious. You can balance a career and motherhood without having to choose one over the other. Groundbreaking, right? Somebody call the research institutes. But here's where Leavitt really changes the game. She fully embraces traditional values, openly admitting that balancing work and raising a child is challenging and not the right fit for everyone. Shocking, I know. A woman saying, hey, my lifestyle isn't one size fits all. Unlike the usual you must have it all or you've failed feminism mindset, Leavitt takes a more level-headed approach. She respectfully points out that women who choose full-time motherhood deserve just as much respect as those who pursue careers. Because believe it or not, raising the next generation is just as important as climbing the corporate ladder. In the end, Leavitt doesn't just win the argument. She exposes the hypocrisy for what it is, performative empowerment mixed with a dose of mom shaming. And just when you think things couldn't get any worse, the outrage machine finds a way to sink even lower. Cue the conspiracy theorists.
I mean, I gotta ask you, because they said it, are you aware of any plots from Elon Musk to push President Trump down the stairs?
Absolutely not. Let me be unequivocally clear about that. And watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years. They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him, they have shamed him, they have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed. These women are completely out of touch with reality.
Yes, you heard that right. The same people who claim to be champions of facts, evidence, and logic have officially swapped their "science is real" yard signs for tinfoil hats. They've now dipped into conspiracy theories so absurd they sound like something you'd hear from a guy on the street corner shouting at passersby with a cardboard sign. And their latest wild theory? Brace yourself for this one. Apparently, Elon Musk, the man busy launching rockets and revolutionizing technology, has some secret plan to take down Trump by pushing him down the stairs. Yes, seriously, because nothing says billionaire mastermind like playground level tactics. And who's leading this groundbreaking investigation? None other than the brightest minds over at The View, a group of daytime talk show hosts who seem to think they're running a congressional hearing from their coffee table. Why? Because Leavitt completely dismantled their leading lady, and now they're out for revenge. And who better to go after than her boss, Donald Trump, and his friend Elon Musk? It's like watching a satire sketch unfold in real time. But Karoline Leavitt wasn't about to let that nonsense go unchecked. She hit back with some sharp words that didn't just expose how ridiculous the claim was, but left the conspiracy theorists scrambling to come up with their next half-baked theory.
A lot of women are preparing themselves for the impact of the incoming administration, which has led to this growing mantra from male right-wing incels. Your body, my choice. Say that to my face.
Whoopi Goldberg, never one to back down easily, decided to take another shot at Karoline Leavitt, but of course not directly. Even she knows that taking Leavitt head-on would be a disaster. So instead of addressing her outright, Goldberg went after Trump instead. And that's when she did the unthinkable. Right there on national television, she actually spat after saying Trump's name, like some cartoon villain tasting defeat. Classy, right? Because nothing says thoughtful debate like spitting on cue. Leavitt wasn't about to let that slide. She clapped back with sharp precision and undeniable force, calling out the absurdity of it all. "This is what debate has come to now?" she scoffed. "When you can't argue with facts, you resort to playground antics? Imagine being so rattled by someone's name that you start spitting like a toddler refusing to eat broccoli. It's beyond embarrassing. No wonder daytime TV ratings are tanking." And she didn't stop there. Leavitt called out the hypocrisy loud and clear. These are the same people who constantly preach about civility and respect, yet here they are, turning a national broadcast into some slapstick comedy routine. By the time Leavitt was done, Goldberg's so-called bold statement looked less like defiance and more like sheer desperation.
I feel like the last couple of years you've purposely picked this fight with the red states. I mean, the DeSantis. Yeah, but I don't want to live in the Civil War country.
I agree with that.
You know what? Well, but you seem like you purposely want to set up this dichotomy between, oh, this is a blue state and that's a red state.
You got folks out there trying to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. America in reverse, rolling back voting rights, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, not just access to abortion, but contraception. I mean, it's a profound and consequential moment. And you could sit by and say, well, I really want to get along, as these guys are rolling back the clock.
The governor gave this creepy speech where he was talking about speculators coming in and talking about what to do with the land of all these homes that have been burnt down.
We're dealing with a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties.
While it's still only 6% contained, and he did this little dance.
Bill Maher had a fiery exchange with Gavin Newsom on Real Time with Bill Maher. And honestly, I didn't see this coming. Sure, Maher has been pretty critical of the so-called woke warriors and the left lately, but I didn't expect him to put Newsom on the spot like that. Maher masterfully pushed Newsom into a tough position, making him work hard to defend himself, and it turned into quite the showdown. So how did it all unfold, and who came out on top? Keep watching to find out. Here's a clip where you can see just how surprised Maher's audience was at his rapid-fire questioning and Newsom's evasive responses.
You'd be good at the job. Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but no, this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think you can win. What do you say to that if you could win look at the swing states, there's only 8 of them.
Right. Well, I mean, California is an interesting case study, isn't it? It's the size of 21 state populations combined.
Yeah.
2/3 of state is very deeply red. We don't need to be lectured on rural politics or border issues. I mean, in so many ways, these are familiar issues, and the issues of the heartland of the United States are very much a part and parcel of the work we're doing in this state. But look, I understand this notion that you're from the coast, you don't understand those things. You can't talk the language. You're not able to communicate. And you're not able to actually encourage and find that common ground.
It's stuff like there's a new law in this. I think we have way too many regulations and laws, as we've talked about. And this one, I think, says if you're a department store with over 500 employees, you have to have a gender-neutral toy department.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I get it.
So you think that's silly? You think that's a silly thing? Then that we too much government there.
If you listen closely, you'll hear the audience gasp at this question because honestly, no one expected Maher to put Newsom on the spot over that bizarre state legislation. You can even see the shock on Gavin's face, along with a slight stutter as he scrambles for a response. Maher had him completely trapped, almost like a cat toying with a jittery mouse. Except this particular mouse had a hair gel sponsorship and fewer ways to escape. But like any seasoned politician, Newsom spotted his way out and didn't hesitate. Let's take a listen to his response, and then I'll share my thoughts.
That's an interesting one because the department stores came to us supporting that. And they were the ones making a case for that. They were making a case they're already moving in that direction.
Wanted you to make a law about them?
Well, but they supported the legislation. It wasn't legislation that was enacted, that was initiated from my office, but it was legislation that came up with interesting support from the industry itself. But I understand how that's exploited, and good people can disagree. But that's not something we woke up and said, this is a top priority for the state, when we know the top priorities are homelessness, housing, the issues of crime, quality of life, and issues related to regulation and taxes, which are all top of mind. But I get how those things are weaponized.
The question was pretty straightforward. Doesn't Newsom think the government is overstepping by requiring toy stores with more than 500 employees to have a gender-neutral section? But instead of giving a direct answer, because that would be too simple, California's governor takes us on a scenic detour, rambling about how department stores are totally on board with the decision. Sure. Even if that's true, it completely dodges the actual question. Classic Gavin move. This is what happens when left-leaning politicians try to defend their own policies. They twist and turn like they're playing a game of political twister, hoping no one picks up on the contradictions. But Maher wasn't about to let him off that easy. Now watch how Bill Maher starts off by flattering Newsom. Pay close attention.
All right, so one, I got you here because I live here and I'm not going anywhere. So I just want to make this a better state like everybody else.
Man.
And good job this year making it rain.
You're welcome. That was my legislative priority.
Maher started with a bit of flattery, just enough to make Newsom squirm in his seat, like he could sense what was coming. And he was right. That nervous chuckle from the audience? Yeah, they felt it too. They knew their golden boy was about to walk straight into a rhetorical buzzsaw. Newsom, always the smooth-talking politician, was gearing up for his big mic drop moment, except Maher beat him to it. And when the moment landed, it wasn't just a mic drop, it was a full-on wrecking ball. The governor struggled, the audience cringed, and Maher just sat back, watching it all play out.
And we still don't have enough water in the Colorado River and all this stuff. Yeah. And then whenever I read, 80% of the water goes to agriculture. Almonds. No one ever asked you about almonds? Oh, I'm going to ask you about almonds. We grow a boatload of almonds.
I'm well
here.
aware.
You know how much water it takes?
Many gallons.
1,900 gallons to grow a pound of almonds. Yeah. Come on, man. Take on big almond.
Take on big almonds.
I mean, it's not like we don't have the water.
Another sharp question from Maher. For years, California officials have been sounding the alarm about water shortages, claiming the state's rivers just couldn't keep up. But surprise, surprise, investigations revealed there's actually plenty of water. The catch? A whopping 80% of it is being drained by, of all things, almonds. Yep, almonds. Which, fun fact, use as much water as all indoor household consumption combined. And to make matters worse, they only contribute a tiny 2% to California's economy. So Maher's question was straightforward. What is Newsom's office actually doing about this water crisis? Now watch as Newsom dodges the question like he's trying out for Dancing with the Stars.
In those extreme years with these atmospheric rivers, wets are getting a lot wetter, dries drier, hot's getting a lot hotter. And so we've got to modernize our conveyance system. We've got to modernize our storage, not just above ground, but below ground. And so that's a big part of our focus and frame, including desalinization plants. We have 20 projects just on desal that we're working on today. So we put out a detailed water strategy that includes, by the way, getting that Delta conveyance project back up and operational, and includes the first above ground off stream storage facility in half a century in the state, which, by the way, is being aided by a regulatory package I pushed forward to reduce red tape in the state of California and address the permitting quagmires that you rightfully pointed out.
Did you catch all that word salad? Because I sure did. The question was simple. What was Newsom actually going to do about the almond industry draining California's water? But true to form, he pulled the classic left-wing sidestep, ignoring the elephant, or should I say almond, in the room, and instead going on about his so-called noble efforts to store rainwater and other vague water management plans. The real issue isn't that California lacks water. It's that almost all of it is being funneled into growing almonds, which barely make a dent in the state's economy at just 2%. But rather than tackling that uncomfortable fact, Newsom danced around the question and clung to the same worn-out talking points about improving water storage. And that, my friends, is a textbook example of performative politics. Don't solve the problem, just wrap it in buzzwords and hope no one notices.